and welcome to today's session. Today we'll talk about active shooting and administration of free throws. So I would like to welcome all the countries that are participating, Angola, Cape Verde, Mozambique, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe. So I hope today also will be a very productive day. We'll learn some new stuff and we'll remove some doubts that we have in officiating. The video that you guys have been seeing every day that is played in the beginning and at the end, that is the FIBA office, the head office here in Africa. So sometimes you don't know what it is. So they're just showing you the office based in Cote d'Ivoire. And some pictures there, there's the Secretary General, the President of FIBA Africa, and so on. So without delay, I will hand to my colleague, Mr. Idrissu, who will conduct us today in the section of playing the act of shooting and free throw administration. Idrissu.
Hello, good afternoon, participants. Good afternoon. You are welcome to today's session. Our topic for today is, hello? Our topic for today is, I don't see my screen. I don't see my presentation, Charles.
No. Can we share the presentation, please?
Okay. Our topic for today is act of shooting and free throw administration. And we are hoping that by the end of this session, we'll have a very fruitful interaction and we will learn from the new way forward as far as this is concerned.
Please,
yes.
Presentation is not shared. Okay. Okay, you share now, please. Okay, continue.
Yes, you can continue.
Okay, continue.
I should continue?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you can continue.
Yes. The first slide, please. Our main goals today is to enhance decision-making and to achieve consistency in AOS and then free throw administration. Next. What is act of shooting? The act of shooting is the procedure where a shot for a field goal is thrown when the ball is held in the player's hands and is then thrown in to the air towards the opponent's basket. This may include a tap, which means that the player tries to give impetus to the ball towards the opponent's basket, a dunk, which requires that the player with the ball in either hand or both hands forces the ball downwards through the basket. It also may include a continuous movement on drives to the basket or other moving shots in an action of the player who catches the ball while he's progressing or upon completion of a dribble. Next, please. Hello? The act of shooting begins when the player starts, in the judgment of the official, the shooting motion, which usually is an upward action, and completes this with a shot. The act of shooting ends in this situation. Let me just go back, please, Charles. Here, we are looking at various scenarios where the the act of shooting will begin. In this, the player is still dribbling the ball, cannot be considered yet to have started the act of shooting. Over here, an obvious, going for a layup. He's ended the dribble, picked the ball, and is trying to go up and then finish the shot. And then over here, the player has the ball in his hands and is, from then, any action upwards, the upward motion would then constitute an act of shooting. In this situation, the player is already shooting the ball. You can see that he's making an attempt at the goal. When does the act of shooting end? Act of shooting ends the act of shooting ends in a number of ways. First, the player has shot the ball, has released the ball, and the ball is on its upward flight. Here, like it shows in this slide. Here, the player is trying to shoot a dunk. And in this situation, he's doing a jump shot. For the player who, is airborne, the act of shooting ends when he returns to the floor. Both feet have returned to the floor. And in circumstances where the player has the ball, but decides to, pass the ball off, the act of shooting has ended in that situation. There are circumstances, next slide. There are circumstances when a player who has the ball and is attempting a shot, is attempting to shoot the ball, is fouled. But after he is fouled, he releases the ball. And let me take that again. There are circumstances when the player who is attempting a shot is fouled and his hands are held such that he is not able to continue shooting the ball. In that case, the player still is considered to be in the act of shooting when he follows through with the upward motion as it is. Next. Like I said in a short while ago, in this picture on the top right corner, does the player have to release the ball to be considered in the act of shooting? Sometimes there's a situation here where player number 10 in white has the ball firmly in his hands. He's starting to bring the ball up in the upward motion. And the player here in blue, dark blue, holds his hands. This player is still considered to be in the act of shooting. There's a similar situation here where the player is making an attempt to come up. Same here. And this is another one where the player is, in this situation, this last slide, the player is shooting the ball has left his hand when the contact happened. So it is not always that when the player's hand is held, he's still considered to be in the act of shooting once he started the upward motion. There is no relationship between the legal steps that are taken by a player and the act of shooting. Next. Charles, next. Next. Covering the shooter. It's important that throughout the referees ensure that they cover the shooter and the shot throughout this process. The referees must ensure that the defense is the legal guarding position and they are guarding the player who is shooting the ball within the limits of the parameters. The officials in this situation must stay with the play until the shooter has returned to the floor. And focus should be put on the secondary flight of the ball. So you don't just concentrate on the defense. Once you have ensured that you have established legal guarding position, you switch onto the shooter and ensure that you are covering the shot, you are covering his, what do you call it? In covering the shot, we mean you are looking at the hands, you are looking at the body midsection here in two, okay? And you ensure that you cover the feet so that whatever contacts, these are the areas where we look for contacts. And in this way, you can fully cover the shooter. Can we move on, please? Yes. When a foul happens in the act of shooting, the officials must blow their whistle and indicate clearly whether that is so or not. In the flies here to my left, you know, the correct signals, FIBA signals must be used all the time. In the first slide, this is a foul in the act of shooting. So you raise the wrist, you call foul, and show this, 2. Or if it is 1, you show 1. If it is 3, so you show the foul and show 2, which means that this is in the act of shooting. It does not mean, you know, how many fouls they have to shoot. But if the foul is not in the act of shooting, when you clench the fist, show the foul sign and point to the floor, indicating that it is not a foul in the act of shooting. Next. Hello? A continuous motion is the situation where the player, while dribbling the ball, or he has received a pass when he's airborne, you know, then starts the shooting motion. And he's, you know, contacted in the process. Like in this situation, you know, there's contact here. His hands are being clearly held. You see this? He started, you know, he's held the ball in the hands. He's going up and he's being held. Next part. Next. Now, at this juncture, may I please ask Charles if you have anything to elaborate on the presentation, what I've done so far.
Yes, can I go back just to highlight some parts of the presentation you show us? I just want to emphasize that the act of shooting is something that we have to judge it correctly. Normally, when we are in the game, you can find that a player is fouled in the act of shooting, and the officials, they fail to give the shooting the 2 free throws or the 3 free throws, or a foul is committed while the player is not in the act of shooting, and the officials, they end up giving the free throws. So it's very important that we understand very well what is the player in act of shooting. And most of referees, they like when the game now is on team foul, because then it becomes easier whenever it's a foul, then it's shooting, because they don't know how to draw the line when it's the act of shooting and when it's not the act of shooting. So we have to understand that if a player is in movement, from the time that he stopped dribbling, the ball comes to rest in the hand or in the hands of the player who's controlling the ball. Now, starting that motion to go to the basket, now you're gonna take step 0, 1, 2, and then take the shot. So from that moment that the ball now has stopped in his hand or hands, the player now is considered to be in the act of shooting. So any foul that is committed at that moment then will result in shooting. Or if he continue progress to the basket and he scores, then that basket will count. So we have to understand this. But remember, there's other elements that are involved on that. You can be in the act of shooting and then you commit violation. For instance, you commit a traveling violation. So the referee must be aware of this situation. Yes, he's in the act of shooting, but he committed a traveling violation. Therefore, you want to cancel the basket if he scores a basket. But the act of shooting is still there. So you're going to consider the shooting, but you're not going to consider the basket that was scored. So for instance, he was shooting in a layup, 2 points, for instance. So he scored the basket, but before he scored, he committed traveling violation. So you cancel the basket, and you're gonna give the 2 shots for the traveling that the player has committed, for the foul that was committed in the act of shooting. So let's say the tap and the dunking also is considered to be act of shooting. How can we officiate the tap? The only way that we officiate the tap is when we are prepared. You need to be prepared in the game. You need to have expectation. So each play in the game, you must have expectation. If a player is bouncing the ball in the half court, you will not be expecting to officiate a tap. For instance, a tap can only happen when the ball is close to the rim and the player jumps to tap the ball into the basket. So you must have expectation when the ball is close to the rim. What can happen? For instance, there was a shot, the ball hit the rim, now players are jumping, and you must have that expectation. Okay, offensive player, probably they will try to tap the ball in. So when the contact happens in that situation, you are prepared to make the call. This does not come as a surprise for you, because whenever it comes as a surprise, then you will not be able to make that call at that moment. You're gonna miss the call. So it's very important that you are always prepared. You are ahead of the game. Remember, we spoke on the other day about anticipating the play. So this is one of the parts of the game that you need to anticipate the play. You need to be aware of what can happen. And then we just explain how does it begin. You can see the first picture here, the red player bouncing the ball. If we have to call a foul in this situation, this player is not yet in the act of shooting. Unless then the ball comes to stop, she does not bounce again when she goes to the basket. We call a foul, she stopped bouncing. After we call that foul, there's no more bounce, and she continues to the basket. Then we consider that as act of shooting. But if you call a foul and she bounced the ball again, now she takes the 2 steps to the basket, you cannot consider that she was in the act of shooting because she was still dribbling the ball. The difference here, you see the picture in the middle. The player here now has the ball in the hands and taking the 2 steps to the basket. So this player clearly is in the act of shooting. And you see the third picture on the side, player has the ball in the hands. You can see that he is no longer bouncing the ball, has control of the ball in the hands, going to the basket. So if a foul happens here, of course, it's going to be act of shooting. And the picture on top where you see the player has jumped and he released the ball in the air. Also, this player is in the act of shooting. and says, when does it end? Sometimes there's a confusion made by the official that they consider that the act of shooting will end when the ball leaves the hands of the shooter. No, the act of shooting for a born player, if you jump to take a shot, does not end here when the ball leaves, but it will end after the ball has left. The player who took the shot must return to the floor, both feet must touch the floor. And then we consider now that the act of shooting has ended. If there's any foul that then is committed after that, after the both feet of the player is in the floor, then that foul now is going to be a side ball. It's no longer now considered to be part of the act of shooting. So it's very important for you to understand the beginning and the end of this act of shooting, because that then will determine your decision to say, okay, the player was or was not in the act of shooting. Another situation that can lead to end of shooting is when a player is fouled. After he being fouled, he then passes the ball. When he passed the ball, then he canceled his act of shooting. Is no longer to be considered to be in the act of shooting. Does the player have to release the ball to be considered in the act of shooting? The answer is no. You don't have to release the ball. Remember, we said that the moment he stops to bounce the ball, he starts the motion towards the basket, is considered to be act of shooting. It is possible that he's fouled in such a way that he doesn't have enough power to take the ball up to make it, to attempt to score. Like you can see, the situation that I illustrated on the pictures here, the players that control the ball, they're held in such a way that it's difficult for them to raise their hands or to raise the ball towards the basket. But because what we consider is the beginning, where did he start? And after that, did he bounce the ball or did he pass the ball or not? So in this situation, yes, he is in the act of shooting and he does not have to release the ball. What can the shooter do to cancel the shot, the act of shooting? If he passed the ball, then he has canceled the act of shooting by himself. So that act of shooting there will not be, will be canceled. He is no longer considered to be in the act of shooting. Coverage. When we do the coverage, always we have to have coverage on the player who's doing the act, who's performing the shot. Remember that basketball is played with 10 players, but it's only one ball. So always, when there's a shot, there must be one referee or two referees to cover that shot. There's no way that a shot can take place and there's no coverage. Otherwise, the referees are not officiating, because where there's a ball, there must be at least 2 or 4 eyes watching the situation. So the first part that we watch when we have act of shooting is the hands of the player. In the arms is where the contact most of the time will take place. So we have to watch this as number one. And then secondly, we have a board contact. You watch the board contact, if there's a contact in the body of the player or not. And then thirdly, you go to the legs of the player. The defensive player can contact the legs of the player, or the offensive player can also stretch the legs and cause contact with an opponent. So we have to observe this. We're not only observing to call defensive foul, which for the referees is much easier to call offensive, defensive foul, because you don't have much complaint. So you have to observe either defensive foul or offensive foul. You have learned about the cylinder of the player. So you have to follow it. This player is within his cylinder. So from the time that he stretches the legs, then it's gonna go out of the cylinder. If you cause contact, of course, you have to penalize that contact. Watch the hands when there's a shot. Most of the time, players will touch in the elbow of the shooter. The minute they touch here, the direction of the ball, it will change. So it's very important that you keep a good eye to those situations. Referee the defense at all times. You'll hear that all the time that you come to basketball clinics or you're learning how to officiate basketball. When they say referee the defense, you start by the defensive player. If the defensive player is right, then it means that the offensive player is not right. So you need to have your good eye on the defensive player, but you don't leave the offensive player. Remember, the offensive player has the ball. He can commit violation. He can commit traveling, double dribble, other violations. So you need to keep an eye on offensive play. But you're watching, you must start with the defensive play. If the defensive play is right, then it means that the offensive play is the one who's wrong. Stay with the player until the shooter returns to the floor. So when there's a shot, don't abandon this player and fall the ball. While the ball is in the air, no one will do anything. Ball will not be stolen, nothing will happen. So you have to continue watching this player until he returns to the floor. So the next step is going to be when the ball now is towards the basket where there can be interference with the ball or with the basket or so on. So at this moment, at that moment now the player will have returned to the floor. Now you can concentrate on the next step. Focus on the shooter, secondary flight of the ball. So first is the shooter, and then you go to the flight of the ball. We spoke about the hands, both contact and the feet.
Hello.
What is a foul in the act of shooting? Okay, we explained that. It's done. What is the continuum motion? Okay, when a player is fouled, you continue. Continuum mode is from the time that you stop dribbling the ball or when you receive the ball, you take your 2 steps to the basket. That is the continuum motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.
Free throw, Idris.
Yes. Free throw administration is Article 43 of the rules. It is usually an opportunity that is given to the player to shoot 1 free throw uncontested. A set of free throws are free throws, possible free throws that could happen after, the first one. In that case, for instance, if a foul is called on a player, and then there's another foul that is called on a coach, these constitute sets of free throws. The first, if they don't cancel out, the first free throw has to be taken, and the second will be taken after it. Who shoots on contacts or fouls like personal foul? In a personal foul, is the player who is fouled who shoots the free throws, whether it is 1, 2, or 3. On an unsportsmanlike foul, it's still a personal foul. So the the player who is fouled shoots. Is the same thing with a disqualifying foul. Who shoots on non-contact fouls? Non-contact fouls like a technical foul. The coach of the team is the one who would normally designate who is the shooter in this situation. And if we have to substitute a shooter, okay, if we have to substitute a shooter as a result of this, if it's any of it is qualifying or whatever technical foul, you ensure that the shooter will shoot before. Assuming that he's injured, he cannot, then there must be a substitute shooter. So if we have to substitute a shooter, then his substitute is the one who would administer the free throw. Shall we move on? Charles? Who shoots for a disqualifying foul and a technical foul? It is the player who is designated by the coach, like I've said previously. And how should we administer a free throw? how should a shot be taken? When you look in this slide, the player must position themselves behind the free throw line within the free throw semicircle and then project the ball towards the basket. They can use any method to shoot the ball, but in doing so, they should ensure that they do not violate the free throw regulations. 1, they cannot consume more than 5 seconds. Okay? 2, they cannot step on the free throw line. 3, they cannot move from the free throw line until the ball that they have released has touched the rim, has touched the ring. Can they fake a free throw? No. You cannot fake a free throw. When they fake a free throw, this is a violation. It is a violation. They can also go for the rebound when, that is the shooter. They can also go for the rebound when, after they have shot the ball and has touched the rim, they would move into the restricted area in order that they can contest a rebound. For the players who are in the lane places or the rebound places, they cannot move into the restricted until the ball has been released by the free throw shooter. And for those who are outside the free throw line extended and the 3-point area, those who are not in the rebound areas, they can only also move after the ball has touched the ring. Yes? During the free throw, there are set alignments have to be made in order that the free throw is administered properly. Over here in this situation, this picture, you see the players are aligned, they take alternate positions. The shooter is here, and the defending team is in these lane places alternately. Over here, let me first take this. This gives us a summary of the entire free throw arrangement. The free throw shooter A3, his teammates and the opponents are lined up in this manner. Okay, 3 on this side and 2 on this side, alternately if they can alternate it. Then we have all the other players who are not supposed to be in the rebound areas are behind, is the free throw line extended, this shaded area here. Free throw line extended. Then they stay behind both this and the 3-pointer line until the free throw is administered. An infraction of this rule is a violation. Yes? When an infraction of the rule, a violation is committed by the shooter or his teammate, by the shooter, let me start with the shooter. If he scores the goal is nullified. Okay? For instance, if he commits, when a violation is committed by the shooter and he scores, the goal is cancelled. Now, when a violation is committed by the opponent, and the free throw shooter, the free throw is successful, the free throw is successful, then the goal counts. When a violation is committed by the teammate of the free throw shooter, and he scores a goal, the goal is cancelled. However, tell me what, Charles? Hello? Go to the next slide, please. No, please go back. Go back. Charles, go back. Next to the other one, yes. Free throw responsibilities. Responsibility of the officials. Let's go there, Charles. Hello?
Oh, it looks like I have that one, huh? Yeah.
I'm not able to control it here, you know.
Okay.
All right. The responsibilities of the officials during the free throw. Whether 2 or 3 person officiating, the officials are supposed to ensure that they are looking at the possibilities for free throw, both trail, lead, and center. As the official, the shooter violated the free throw, or in cases where, as we see in this one, in this slide, have the opponents or anyone or the entered the free throw while, before the free throw shooter has shot the free throws. Officials must pay attention to these movements, okay? And each one of them in their basic area of coverage should make sure that they call a violation that emanates. Shall we move on, Charles?
Next.
Yes. In being able to have control of this situation with AOS and free throw administration, it is important that the referee has a good knowledge of the rules and its interpretation, must have known who they are as a referee. Of course, being who you are, it means that you must know the rules and you must know what to apply at what time and what they are supposed to do in order that they can ensure that the game will begin and end properly in this situation. You must have confidence and you must be fair and make sure that the very basic objective of ensuring that the game would begin and end properly is attained. Charles?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'll just emphasize some small things on your slides. Let me just. Okay, so I'll start by this one. The sets of free throws. When you call a foul and you say shooting, so for instance, you're gonna say shooting 2, that's one set. After you have called the foul and there's another foul, that's another set of shots. So a set of shots is when a player has to attempt a certain number of free throws. After that player has attempted, then you go to another player, or the same player will still have to attempt another group of free throws. So those ones are the ones that we call them sets of free throws. When we have sets of free throws, any set that is followed by another set, it means that we cannot have players to rebound. You see this picture on top here, players shooting, there's no other players for rebound. It has to be like this. All the players that must be behind the free throw line extended and out of the 3-point line. So those are the sets of free throws. Who shoots when we have a personal foul, unsportsmanlike foul, and defensive foul? The player who was fouled, because all the fouls that they involve contact, the player who was fouled must take the shots. What we have to, if we have to substitute the shooter, for instance, the shooter is injured, we have to substitute the shooter. So in that situation, the player who substitutes the shooter then must be the one who's going to take the free throws. And if a player, for instance, is fouled out, is excluded player, after he has been fouled, then he commits a foul. So in that, his foul, that's a 5th foul. It means that now he has become excluded player. He cannot continue to play. Therefore, he can no longer take the free throws. Now, the substitute is the one who's going to attempt those free throws. If a team then does not have another player to put inside, so that team only had 5 players now that they were eligible to play, and one player now has 5 fouls, that now will leave the team with 4 players. Now, the coach has a right now to choose one player to be the shooter out of the 4 that are left inside the court. For disqualifying foul and technical foul, the coach will indicate who's the shooter. How the shot should be taken. Anyhow, there's no prescription for how the shooter must attempt the shot. He can shoot the way he wants to shoot, provided the ball must touch the rim or must enter basket. If it does not touch the rim or enter basket, then it's a violation, and the ball must be given to the opponents. A shooter for free throws has 5 seconds to take a shot. You cannot fake the shot. You have to take the shot at once. Now, it's very important for the referees to observe the free throw shooter, because sometimes you can think that it's a fake while it's the way he shoots. So when you take the first free throw where there's no rebound, of course you're gonna see his style of shooting. When you take the second free throw, then you'll see if that was a fake or not. When players can rebound, okay, so we divide the players into 2 groups. 2 groups. The first group is the players that are lining up for rebound. That's the first group. The second group is the shooter and the players that are lining up outside the 3-point area. So for the first group, which are the players that are lining up for rebound, immediately when the ball leaves the hands of the shooter, they can now enter to go for rebound. For the second group, the shooter and the other players out here, they can only enter, the shooter can pass this line after the ball has touched the rim. The other players out of the 3-point line also, they can only cross this line after the ball has touched the rim. So the 2 groups, the first one, when the ball leaves the hands of the shooter. The second group, when the ball touches the rim, then they can cross the line that is in front of them. Remember, in basketball, we have 2 groups of lines. The lines that they make the square for basketball, remember 28 by 15, that's the lines for basketball. Those ones they consider to be outside. But the lines inside the basketball court, when you touch those lines, you consider to be inside. So free throw line, if you touch the free throw line, you consider to be inside. 3-point line, if you touch the line, you consider to be inside. So any player, like the ones that are lining for rebound, they are not entitled to touch this line. The shooter is not allowed to touch the line. The 3-point line, also the players that are lining outside here, they are not allowed to touch the line, because then they will be considered to be inside. So it's very important for you to observe those things. Responsibilities of the referees. Since I'm on this picture, I want to use this picture. So we'll have one referee here. We'll have another referee this side. If that's the position. Always, when you're standing, you observe what is in front of you, not what is on your side. So the referee who's standing here, you'll be observing the players on this side. If it's 2 or 3 players, doesn't matter. This is your job. And the referee who's standing this side, you will be observing the opposite side. You will be observing what is in front of him, which are those 2 players. Can be 3 also or 2. Plus, this referee also is responsible for this line, for the free throw line, to observe the shooter. If the shooter touches the line before the ball touches the rim, or he crosses the line before the ball touches the rim. Thirdly, you will be observing the players out here. If those players also, they cross the 3-point line before the ball touches the ring. That is a two-man officiating. In a three-man officiating, okay, you'll have another referee who will help you to observe the other players that are out of the three-point line. So those are the duties of the referee during the free throw line. So if any player from here will enter before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter, responsibility is this referee to make the call, not this one. This can make a call as a secondary call, but primary, the referee on top here is the one who will make the call for violation, and then you will repeat the shot if it's a defensive team that commits a violation, and cancel the shot, cancel if it's offensive team that commits the violation. The only time we cancel the shot is when the ball did not enter basket. Then you can say, okay, the offensive team has committed violation. But if the ball goes in, now the only cancellation that we can have when the ball goes in is when the shooter himself commits a violation, then we can cancel the shot. If it's any other player who commits a violation and the ball goes in, we don't cancel that shot, because the shooter only is the one who can commit a violation that falls for the basket to be cancelled. During the free throw shall not take place. So you can see here that the players are intercalated. You have a defensive player, offensive player, defensive player. So you cannot have defensive player, and then offensive player. There must be a space for offensive player in between the defensive player and the defensive player. Always the first space close to the basket is for the defensive team. No one is allowed to distract the shooter. So the players that are going for rebound, sometimes they like to wave hands or clap hands for the shooter. If you see that action as action to distract the shooter, you must warn that player, and if the shot has gone and the shooter has missed that shot, then it means that you will have to repeat the shot. If the bench distracts the shooter, you have to repeat the shot. And you want the bench, if they continue with that action, then you have to penalize them with a technical foul. Okay, I think this also has been explained. Responsibility, we spoke about the responsibilities. Okay, basic elements for good self-control. The only way you can control 30 people minimum is 15 people per team. There's a lot of people that you as a referee need to control. First thing, you need to have self-control. If you cannot control yourself, how will you be able to control the others? So you need to be calm always. Make sure that you are calm when you are about to take your decision. Think, be rational, don't be emotional. What happened yesterday in yesterday's game or the other week does not count. What counts is today. So don't be emotional. This coach has said so the last time, whatever. No, don't bring that to the game. Be rational. Think for your decisions. Know who you are. When they say know who you are, you need to know your weakness. What is your weakness, or what your strength in the game, and share your weakness with your partner so that they will be able to help you when you need assistance. So they will be able to help you. So that's knowing yourself to know, okay, I'm not strong on this. Please help me when something like this happens. Please help me to solve this problem or to officiate this area. Have knowledge of the game. Know the game of basketball. So you need to know those plays that the teams are playing. You need to have good knowledge of the rules. Read the rules. Time to time, the rules, they keep changing. So you must read those rules. You must be aware always of the rule change so that you will be able, when you make a call and people that don't agree with your call or they don't understand what you call, you are able then to explain what you have, what your decision, what did you call. When you have knowledge of the rules, that will give you confidence. You will have confidence to make your decision, because then you know what you're dealing with. Fairness. When you have confidence, apply the rules with fair. Be fair to the game. Don't take sides. Don't be one-sided, but be fair to the game. You are there for the game, not for the team. Idrissu, I give it back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Charles,
yes,
for the elaborations. I think that at this juncture, we take questions. I see some questions are coming in already. The first question there is concerns in a free throw administration. Do we always have to call violations if it happens, or we have to see advantage and disadvantage?
Yes, we have to see advantage and disadvantage. In a basketball, it's not a referee show to be there to blow the whistle all the time. We have to blow the whistle. No, basketball is about advantage and disadvantage. There was a violation of offensive player, but the defensive player get a clear rebound, and they're free to move to the opponent's basket. We allow the game to continue. We will not stop, say, violation by offensive player. Now let's start the ball from the side. So we think about advantage and disadvantage. Yes.
The next question, can a free throw shooter jump sometimes? Yes.
Yes, he's free to jump. He can shoot anyhow. He can jump, provided that when he lands, he does not land on the line or inside the restricted area before the ball touches the rim.
Our next question, what can we do when the players out of the 6.75 meter, which is the three-pointer line, enter the lane before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter?
Again, it's about advantage and disadvantage. If he enter there and his team gets a rebound, then with a violation, we repeat the shot. Or if it's the offensive team, then we give the ball to the opponent. Special, if the player who has crossed the line is the one who gets the rebound, that's a clear violation, very easy to call.
Can you please explain more about the continuous movement?
Continuous movement is when a player stops bouncing the ball or receive a pass, take the steps towards the basket, the 0, 1, 2 steps towards the basket, now to perform the shot. That moment, that's a part that is considered to be continuous movement. When he's fouled, he continues and he goes to score, to try to score. That movement is what is considered to be a continuous movement.
Does a foul take precedence over a travel violation during an act of shooting?
I did not hear that.
Does a foul take precedence over a travel violation during an act of shooting?
You have to see what happened first. If what happened first was a foul or what happened first was a traveling violation. So you'll take what happened first. So if he traveled and then is fouled, of course, by the time that he is fouled, you will have called already the traveling violation. Therefore, traveling will go first. But if he's fouled and he commits traveling, of course, he's going to be fouled because he was fouled before he committed traveling.
What is the role of responsibility for the center and lead during a free throw?
The lead is the one who will indicate the amount of free throws that will take place. He will enter holding the ball to announce that it's 2 free throws, 3 free throws, or 1 free throw. And then he's the one who passes the ball to the shooter. He will then observe opposite side to where he's standing. You observe those players. If those players will enter before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter. While the center referee or trailer referee, depending on how many referees are officiating, he will be observing the shooter for not crossing the line before the ball touches the rim. When he takes a shot, he cannot touch the line. And he observed the two players opposite side to see if they enter before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter. And then he observed also the players that are out of the three-point area. Yes, next.
Thank you. Can we explain about the two groups?
Sorry?
During the free throw administration and the way they make the violation?
I did not hear you.
Can you please explain again about the two groups during the free throw administration, the two groups, and the way they make a violation?
The two groups, so we said that we have the first group is the one that they're lining up. Those ones that are allowed to line up for rebound. That's the first group. They can only enter here inside the key immediately when the ball leaves the hands of the shooter for the first group. The second group is the shooter and the other players that are not lining up. So they're standing outside the three-point area. Those players, they can only enter in the line in front of them. The shooter, for instance, the free throw line, and those ones here, the three-point line, after the ball touches the rim. So those are the two groups and the starting of when they can cross the line in front of them. Yes, next question.
If the player who commits a violation by entering the restricted area does not gain the rebound, but his teammate gains the rebound, is this a violation?
If yellow player is first to enter before the shot, before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter, and then black gets the rebound, we can continue the game. There's no advantage that has been created. But if he gets the rebound, of course, then you stop the game. Now, there's another situation where the officials, they fail to call. It's before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter. If black or blue and yellow, they enter before the ball leaves the hands of the shooter, then he shoots and the ball does not enter basket, you must call a jump ball. I can't understand that question.
The other question is?
No, the one that is shouting there. I can't hear the question. Last question, because we're on top of the hour. Last question.
Can you explain the shooter coverage?
Shooter coverage.
Yes.
Whenever we have a shot, there must be a referee to cover that shot. When they say cover, is to be there to see the player who's shooting, see there the player who is defending, if there will be a contact or not. So every time when we have a shot, there must be a referee who's responsible for the player who's shooting. They must be observing that play. So sometimes can be on the lead or depending on the position of the referee, depending where the shot also is taking place. So always there must be coverage whenever we have a shot. Okay, so I think we are on top of the hour now. Our time has come to an end. Unfortunately, there's still more questions and people that want to question, but we don't have much time now to answer those questions. So they will find the platforms to address their question either by sending WhatsApp or email to Eva and try to get answers to those questions that they still have. So from my side, I just have to thank you guys. Thank you, Idris, for today's section. And the other people that are participating, the learners, we wish you a bright future. We would like to see you in a basketball. It's not only about officiating FIBA games, but even in your country to make sure that you are a good referee and you apply the rules accordingly. You invest in yourself in learning the rules, and you are able to teach the others what you have learned here today and the other days that you participate in this platform. Not everyone had a chance to be here, so you had a chance, you were chosen to be here. So please help the others to understand the rules by applying. If you apply it correctly, if you discuss with your colleagues, this will help you also to improve. Thank you, Idris.
Thank you very much, Charles. Participants, thank you also very much for attending. We do hope that what we have learned during this session on illegal contact, act of shooting, game control, free throws, unsportsmanlike foul over the last 4 days will be useful. Like Charles has said, please go back and share and make sure that you make a contribution to the game of basketball. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.